Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. On this episode, I am delighted to be talking with author. Is archivist a word? Would that be a word that we could use potentially?
Sure,
Uh, uh,
sure.
Current pop culture historian, even Michael Stradford. Michael, thank you for joining, jumping in, and bringing Bruce Lee with you.
Oh, Bruce Lee goes everywhere I go. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely, a pleasure, a pleasure. I know that you have worked in the worlds of documenting characters and stories, and your most current project was with Denys Cowan, chronicling his work and life. So, curious to talk about that project, and curious by means of an opening question of what that collaborative process was like.
Well, it's the basis of it is our friendship. We go back almost 30 years. And so over that time, I think I've developed a fair amount of credibility and trust with Dennis. So, the process was pretty much he gave me access to everything
Mhm.
and let me put it together as I saw fit. And then he would weigh in with thoughts, notes, etc. Our general process was, excuse me, our general process was we were both based in Southern California, about a half hour away from each other. And so I would go to his house every Saturday for an hour, and I'd videotape a conversation, covering a specific period of his career. And I wanted to do it in such a way that he wouldn't get burned out on it or he wouldn't dread it. So I felt like, and he agreed that if we capped it at an hour or said we'll do an hour, and if we naturally go over, fine. And if we only go an hour, that's fine. That'll still give us what we need to push the project forward. So at the end of each hour, I would go into his archive. I'd get a big stack of original art. I'd bring it home. I'd scan it. I'd make notations on stuff that I thought should be in the book, stuff that I had questions about, stuff that was interesting but didn't really add up. And then the next Saturday, I go back to his house, take that material, do the interview, get another batch of material, bring it home and scan it. So we just went through that process every Saturday from December of 2023 until like March of this year.
Sounds like a time-consuming, careful kind of process. And what was that kind of spark moment? How did the process begin?
Well, a few years ago, I had talked to him about doing a book, and he was like, I don't think anybody'd be interested. I don't think I really want to do that. And then I think as he started seeing the growth of the crowdfunding market and successful art of books by different creators, he got a bit more open to it. And then at some point, his wife, Kathy, said, it's really time for you to do a book. And I know you're not going to just do it. So you should have Mike do it because it'll get done. And, and he said, well, yeah, if Mike wants to do it, then I'm in. So and for me, they say when you love what you do, it's never really work. So I enjoyed spending that time with him every Saturday. I really enjoyed scanning the art and, seeing things in real life that I had only seen in print before, or discovering things that I didn't even know that he had drawn before, and have those conversations. So, it took time, but it always felt like a really enjoyable use of time,
Mhm.
um, because to come home Saturday and you see it's my home office, which is really comfortable, and I really like being here. And my one of my four dogs
Oh,
is
very nice.
is generally in here chilling with me. And so I put on some music, or I have a documentary or something playing, and I'm just going through music, going through art, and making notes. And for me, that's a great way to spend part of the weekend.
Certainly part of comics history, and what are you hoping readers kind of take away from this exploration of comics history?
Well, I think it works in my mind. If we do it right, it works on several levels. If you're a fan of just comic book art, there's a lot of it. If you're a fan of or interested in the creative process, how somebody grows from a teenager in Queens up through where he's at today in 2024, it's kind of a blueprint of his story and his creative process and the bumps and the lessons learned along the way. And I think it's really a worthwhile picture of what you go through as you develop as a creative person. Then I think there's also an interesting aspect that he's one of the few Black artists in comic books that have had the kind of career that he's had over the period of time that he's had.
Mhm.
And you know being Black has provided opportunities and also provided challenges. And he talks about that in the book as well. So I feel like it gives a nice context, both historically for him personally, historically for the growth of the comic book industry during the Bronze Age and up until where we are now. Also, the various opportunities beyond just comic books. One of the things that I really wanted to get across in the book is while he's a comic book artist, he's really a creator.
Mhm.
You know, he
Mhm.
doesn't just draw, he creates. He creates universes, he creates uh, characters beyond just putting the pencil to the paper. He's been able to use those skills and be a television producer and a television director and an animated television showrunner, game design, uh, design for film stuff. So it's like it's comic books have been a foundation for him, and he loves comics, and he will tell you, which he says during the one of the interviews, I'm always a comic book man. That's what I am. But that's
Mhm.
not all that he is. And so, we hoped with the book to be able to show that, there's just a really well-rounded, creative furnace burning in this guy.
Yeah. Well, I imagine, I mean, chronicling 50 years of work and 50 years of that creativity. I'm sure that it was a beautiful process, but I'm sure it was also meticulous and at times painful because not everything can necessarily make it in. What was some of the selection process like and the criteria that the two of you used?
Um, well, the process varied a bit because unfortunately his very early stuff we didn't have a lot of, like his early 80s stuff, his early 80s Marvel stuff. I mean, we've got some, but we don't have nearly as much as we have in his 90s on. um, so what we tried to do, unfortunately there were collectors of original art who had some pieces that we did outreaches to, and they sent us scans, and so we were able to beef those earlier sections up. Um, so what we tried to do with the early part of his career is just get as much as we can and then see, okay, how much of this is really vital? You
Hmm.
know, we'd love to have more, but if this stuff is just okay, or if it's just kind of a random page and it doesn't really help tell the story, then maybe we don't use it. Um, but Dennis is an artist who draws as he met Jack Kirby one time, and he asked Jack Kirby, "What's the secret to comics?" And
Hmm.
Kirby said, "Kid, always draw with power." And that's what Dennis does, and he defines power as really drawing with emotional honesty and emotional intensity in everything that you do, so that comes across on the page. So that was really kind of my guiding light when I was looking for art. What are the pages, what are the splash pages, the covers, the panels that kind of really drive home you know his passion, his intensity, when he's really plugged in, or sometimes when he's struggling, when he's trying to figure something out. We have examples of that stuff as well.
Well, I know that the book was being funded and was in that process, but anywhere that listeners can go to learn more about it now, to check it out, to learn more about your work.
Absolutely. We successfully completed the crowdfunding campaign just before Thanksgiving. And Kickstarter recently initiated a new feature called Late Pledges.
Mhm.
So you can leave your campaign up. All of the add-ons aren't necessarily available, but the primary instrument, the book itself, is available. So a lot of people find out after the fact that the campaign is over, but it was something that they were interested in. And I guess that happened enough that Kickstarter felt like, well, there's an opportunity for creators to continue to build their build their brand and sell more books. So um, we are keeping it open at this point probably until the end of the year, and then we'll probably close it off. So if anyone is interested, if you go to Kickstarter and just type in Denys Cowan, the page will come up and it will show you what exactly is available to purchase.
Yeah, very cool. And in terms of a final question, any final words about the legacy of Denys Cowan? And I'm assuming Denys Cowan approves this message. I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah, he approves the message. He's just kind of interviewed out, and he's just
Yeah,
trying
he's done a few. He's done a
he's
few,
trying to
I'm
get a
sure.
lot of stuff done before the holidays, so he can spend that time with his family. But um, yeah, I just think he's a very important person in comics for a variety of reasons, and the fact that he's still active and that he's still uh, striving to work at a high level and still pushing himself and trying to do new things. You know, makes it a career that I think is worthy of a retrospective and worthy of examination and worthy of introduction. And I think one of the things that's interesting, if somebody is interested in Dennis, he really helps you understand his various interests, how the European comic book artists influenced him, and how Steranko influenced him, and how working for Rich Buckler and Neil Adams taught him so many different things. That I think he helps give a reader a different kind of eye and a different kind of appreciation for some of the books that they're looking at, and maybe look at some of these things differently than they did before.
The book is Graphic Samurai,
Hmm. Yeah.
and I hope that folks out there will check it out, check out the retrospective of Dennis's work. And you've also, as I mentioned, you've written books chronicling various parts of the industry. So hopefully people will go and check those out as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.